My name is Peristu Imami, and I'm the host of The Road to Success for Your Highly Sensitive Child. This podcast is about empowering parents of highly sensitive children to nurture their child's unique personality trait and create a path to success. Our podcast provides guidance, insights, and support to help you unlock your child's full potential, fostering resilience, confidence, and a bright future. If you're new to my podcast, please go back and listen to episodes 1 and 2 because they provide information on high sensitivity that all subsequent episodes will build upon. If you skip these episodes, you won't get as much out of this and all subsequent episodes. To book a private coaching session with me, please visit my website at parentinghsc.com. Before I dive into today's episode, here's a friendly nudge. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you waiting for? Join our podcast family. And if you enjoy our podcast, I would love it if you would please give us a 5-star rating. Today's episode is a continuation of my conversation with Angela about raising her highly sensitive boy. In this episode, we will talk about advice that Angela has for other parents and emotional support and personal growth for parents of highly sensitive children. I hope you enjoy it. How has raising a highly sensitive child impacted your perspective on parenting and life?
So I thought about this, and my immediate response, I wrote it down instantly, was it has been an amazing gift to learn how to play my role in my son's life. And I wrote it down, I stopped and I looked at it, and I didn't know that I felt like that, but I
That's
do.
beautiful.
I feel like I didn't learn to be a mom, I learned to be his mom. And that can be very different to other people's moms. Yeah. But I actually feel honored to walk down this path with him. He's not, they say that there are dandelions and orchids. And do you know that phrase?
Yes, I don't like that.
You don't like it?
No, because it's not true.
I understand it, I think, because there are definitely kids where you can just throw them in any situation and they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And then there are going to be kids like Daniel and like many other kids who they need nurturing. They need you need to pay more attention to their feelings. You need to pay more attention to what's making them happy and comfortable. And it's been work, but it's been good work.
Yeah.
And I feel proud of the work that my husband and I have done.
Yeah.
And I feel we still come up with our stuff for sure. He's 10. Yeah. We have our challenges, but he loves us. He trusts us. He's comfortable with us. He can talk. Now it's funny. He actually is very good about talking about his feelings, particularly with me. He can tell me anything and I won't flinch. His dad he'll talk to his dad, but not in the same way. He won't talk to his dad about anything that's like really dark or something that he's really not sure if he should talk about. I think because his dad always wants to shed a sort of a positive light on it. Whereas with me, he can say anything he wants and I don't flinch. And I want him to always be able to do that, because my kid, and you can tell me whether this is true of all sensitive kids, but he has a lot of feelings. There's a lot going on there.
We feel very deeply.
Yeah, exactly. He has a very rich interior world.
Yes.
And I am proud of the fact that he will talk about his feelings with me.
Yeah.
He will say to me sometimes. I'll talk about his fear. I have to pick the right moment. Often, right before bedtime is a good time to talk to him. Or sometimes, if we're sitting in the car, if I don't pick the right moments, he'd be like, "Oh, Mom, is this a feelings conversation again?" And I'll be like, "Yeah. Just give me one sentence. Give me one sentence just to describe how you feel about that." Like I'll let him off the hook.
That's so
But
awesome
or
that
I'll
you do
wait.
that.
If he's resistant, I will wait and come back to it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't pick my moment. I
Yeah.
gotta come back to this
Yeah.
at a later
Yeah.
date. But I feel like I'm a better human being. I've learned a lot about myself. I feel like I am more compassionate
Yeah.
towards other adults, or other parents, I guess I should say, and other kids, because I don't have all the answers, but I'm working on it. There are other parents who perhaps aren't as far down the line as I am,
Yeah.
and I'm in a job where I talk to a lot of people and a lot of parents, and I don't claim to know all about highly sensitive kids, but I will talk to them and say, hey, have you thought about whether your kids, everything you're saying tells me that your kid might be sensitive. Have you like looked into that at all? Like, have you read this book? Have you. I'll invite them, and sometimes they don't want to go there yet, and that's fine. That's up to them. But very often, parents are interested. They don't understand, but they want to understand.
Yes.
And so most times when I talk to parents who have a child that they don't, they're having difficulties with, perhaps they don't understand, I will quite often send them to either Elaine, Aron's book, or I'll send them your way, of course.
Thank you.
So I feel like he has taught me to slow down, and he's taught me not to judge. I think, yeah, he's taught me to not judge other kids or other parents. That everybody's got their way of dealing with life, and that it's all okay.
Yeah. You come back to acceptance, which is super important.
Yeah, totally.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's so beautiful. I had goosebumps while you were talking. I'm like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. So, my next question is, what advice would you give to other parents who are just beginning to navigate the journey of raising a highly sensitive boy?
So early on, when he was younger, we developed code words that, in a situation where he was overwhelmed and couldn't speak, I would say the code word to him, or if he could say, he would say the code word to me. So he's walking into a camp or a situation where there's lots of kids, and he'll freeze. And maybe I don't know whether he's just assessing it, but he's ready to move in, or whether he really can't go in. And so I'll look at him, and if he just isn't saying anything, I will just say overwhelmed, and he'll nod if that's the case, or he'll say no. He might say no, in which case I just wait, and then he'll step forward and start to get himself into a place where he can engage. If he nods and says yes, then I can say to him, do you want to stay and wait? Should we go sit in that corner? Do you need to back out of the room? And he can nod, say no.
Yeah.
Likewise, if he feels like he's able to do it, he'll say overwhelmed. In which case I then ask the question. So if he can speak the one word, the one code word, which we just had as overwhelmed, then great. And if not, then I can say the code word to him. So that became
I love that.
Yeah, that became really important to us. These days we don't use it quite as much, but it's always there. It's always just if he stops still and he's looking really unsure, I will prompt him. So I think the other important thing would be to let other family members know, or friends, let them know how to engage with your child, and when to engage,
Yeah.
and let it be okay. You don't talk to him. Just wait. He'll come talk to you when
Yeah,
he's ready.
exactly.
So letting people around him know, because I think I feel like they are acutely aware of the fact that they are behaving differently, right?
Mhm.
They see everybody else chatting, oh, hi, how are you doing?
Mhm.
And they're not, and
Yeah.
they can't. And so it's not lost on them.
Mhm.
I would say that Daniel probably feels maybe a little embarrassed. I'm going to guess he feels some shame.
Mhm.
Um, and so you want people around him, grandparents, to make sure he knows he should be comfortable.
Yeah.
It's okay. Nobody is judging the fact that he
Yeah.
needs a minute.
Yeah.
So anywhere where you can let people know up front. If we have people over to dinner, I will let them know. Just know that that Daniel's going to take a minute. So just don't worry if he doesn't. If he takes a minute to talk to you,
Yeah.
he'll get there.
Yeah.
And they're great. Once they know, they're fine. Then Daniel doesn't feel any pressure, and that he can engage when he's ready. I think one of the most important things is to not push them.
Yeah.
Nudge them, maybe. Don't push.
Yeah.
Don't try to get them to behave differently. This is not something they're going to change. They're not going to become someone else because you keep pushing at it.
Yeah.
They are always going to be them. And so you can guide them. You can talk about give them a solution. We do that quite often.
Yeah.
Daniel doesn't respond well in a situation. We will go back and say, how would that work better for you? Or perhaps you could try doing it this way.
Yeah.
Or come up with solutions for them.
Yeah.
That's huge. Because
and also options, which
options.
you do very often.
Yeah.
You give him options.
Yeah, totally. Like sometimes he doesn't know what to do. And so yes, we might say, try it, or think about trying to do it this way. And he'll say, I don't want to do it that way. Okay. What do you think? How would you like to deal with that?
Yeah. That's really awesome.
Let them figure that out.
Yeah, because that helps them be in control, which highly sensitive children like to be in control because, like you said, they don't like surprises.
Yeah.
Right? So this comes back to not liking surprises. So when they can be in control, they feel safe too.
Yeah.
Anything else?
What else would I say? Love, of course. We have a very cuddly child, which I am extremely grateful for. And he loves to be hugged tightly.
Yeah.
And that might be part of his sensitivity too.
Yeah.
Like he actually is a kid who wants deep hugs.
Yeah.
We have a weighted blanket at home that he loves. And all those things calm him down.
Yeah.
It might be another way of regulating him.
Yeah.
Is to we are a very huggy family.
Yeah.
Not all kids are like that. There are definitely some kids who don't want that kind of. It's too stimulating. It's too much. Our kid likes it, and it works well. I think I think acceptance, particularly if you're a family perhaps who everybody follows. Let's say for many generations your family has been in the military. Like your kid may never be in the military, and you've got to be okay with that.
Yeah.
If you want them to be happy and successful, I think too, my concern is often when I think about him when he's older, and I have a concern about, is he going to want to experiment with drugs or alcohol, and I don't want him to not feel okay about himself and medicate.
Yeah, and numb himself, because when people go to drugs or alcohol or other things, they can't deal with their emotions, right? And many times, not everyone, I'm just talking in general, they're not able to cope with their emotions, and so they numb themselves. You know, alcohol, drugs, these kind of things could be a way to cope with what's going on with them, even if it's not a healthy way of coping. But what it does for them is they get numb.
Yeah.
So, and that helps them. And of course, we don't want our children to grow up to have to rely on those types of coping mechanisms. That's why it becomes so important to accept them. What
Yeah.
you said, if I had to say to a parent, if you could only do one thing out of the things that I'm teaching you or helping you understand or guiding you, if you can do one thing, accept your child and make sure that, by one thing I mean like acceptance. So make sure not just you accept them as a parent, but help your child accept themselves, help the people around your child accept your child just the way they are, because that in itself does so much for your child. You know, just gives them, you know, helps them be resilient in life, helps them choose the right people to engage with, choose the right jobs. I mean, it just goes on and on of how it helps your child be their authentic self in every situation and find places where they can belong rather than where they can fit in, which is what I did all my life. I was in situations, not all my life, that I didn't feel a sense of belonging, but in my career, many times I just tried to fit in and I was not being my authentic self. Thank goodness that was not the case in the beginning of my career, which I was lucky enough to work for an amazing company for 14 years. So in that company, with the exception of the very last job I had there, I had a sense of belonging. But nowhere else after that company. So I know the difference of what it's like to feel a sense of belonging and what it's like not to have that. It's like night and day. And it's not a healthy way of living. It's not a healthy way at all of fitting in. And you want to teach your child how to find situations where they feel like a sense of belonging, which you will do with acceptance.
I think too that I think I did a lot of reading. Actually, you were the one who first put me on to Elaine Aron's book. And one of the things that I have found is that I was able to put myself in Daniel's shoes. That was really important to me. So when I look at a situation, an event or something that's coming up, I can now look at it and say, how is he going to feel about this? Where, how can we make this successful? Well, I'll preempt things by letting him know what's going to happen, where it is. We'll go in. We'll go in through the back door, maybe the front. Not the front.
Yeah.
I will, and I can do that because I'm now able to put myself in his shoes. And I did that because I read.
Yeah.
Because I started, I think when I first read her book, one of the reasons that I continued was that I kept checking boxes. Every chapter I'm like, oh yeah, he's like that. Oh yeah, he's like that. Oh yeah, oh yeah. And in the end I just thought, I have no choice but to see my child here. And for a moment, it was a little anxiety inducing, like, oh, okay, I got to deal with this differently. But it's been a huge gift to know. I mean, I think we're very lucky at my son's age, compared to yourself, who nobody knew about this.
No.
And now we are, along with this podcast and all the reading that's out there, it's very, people know about it.
Yeah.
I think it's funny. I have clients who work for HR in big companies, and I talk to them. I'm like, do you know about high sensitivity? They almost never do.
Mm-hmm.
And I say to them, this is an area that you need to read up about. You
Yeah.
need to know about it.
Yeah. And it's interesting because a lot of my clients come to me and say, hey, I'm worried about my child's future in the corporate world. If they go that route, because I don't know at this age what my child is going to choose to do in life. Do you go and like speak to corporations? And do you do that kind of stuff? And I'm like, yes, I do that, but they got to, they have to invite me. They have to be willing to approach this topic. I can't force them to go there with me. I can only offer. And then the same thing goes with schools. A lot of my clients are encouraging me to go and speak at schools. And I am doing some of that work. I just started doing some of that work, but it seems like people are wanting me to go into the various institutions that their child might be encountering in the future. So they're looking out for, okay, I know what to do with my child now, but what happens when the child is no longer like with me all the time? Now he's 3 or 4, but what happens when he's in school? What happens when he's in high school and in college? And then when he goes to work, for example, or when he or she wants to date, and how do they know how to pick the right partner in life?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there are a lot of different ways that I can help with spreading the knowledge of high sensitivity. And I just want to take a moment too. You're talking about how I introduced you to high sensitivity and I encouraged you to read the book. And one of the reasons I wanted to do that is because I wanted to talk to you more specifically because we had been talking about Daniel, and you would bring some scenarios to me, and I would talk to you about like what's happening so that you can understand him better. But I really wanted you to have that deeper knowledge so that you could bring more scenarios to kind of process with me. And I really looked forward to seeing you. And I was so happy for our next time that we would see each other, because I was like, oh, I wonder what's going on with Daniel now. And I want to know more. And this is before I had become a coach and before I started my podcast. And it's thanks to you. You're the one who encouraged me to become a coach. And you were like, this is your calling. You've got to do this because I can see you helping so many people. And then you're the one who told me, please take this further, make a podcast about. When I decided to do a podcast, you said, make a podcast about schools, make a podcast about doctors, or, the health industry. And you've just encouraged me so much over the years. And thanks to you, I was able to embrace this gift that I have that I may have not recognized if it wasn't for you.
Well, I need to thank you because I I'm a much better, more understanding parent now that I have this information.
Yeah.
And and this was, I don't know how many years ago now, but I would still be floundering right now if you hadn't recognized from some of the things that I was saying that, oh, I think your child might be highly sensitive, and then going ahead and reading the book and starting to really recognize what was going on in my child's mind and with his actions and how he responded. And then they also talk about, you as a parent, how you help, how what your role is.
Yeah.
So I'm extremely grateful.
Oh, thank you.
And I think it's really important that our children grow up to know that they are okay and to be able to look someone in the eye and say, yeah, I'm sensitive.
Yeah.
what's your point?
Yeah, exactly. What about that? What I love when I took the class with Dr. Aron, what I loved is she gets irritated, by the way, too. It wasn't just me. So most people in that class would get irritated by this question. So you guys who are listening, please don't ask this question of anybody that is highly sensitive. She said, if somebody says you're too sensitive, ask them the question, what about my sensitivity bothers you? And I was like, wow. And she said, stay calm. Don't look irritated. Don't show your irritability. Don't be angry. Stay calm. Stay neutral. Stay calm. But look them in the eyes and say, what about my sensitivity bothers you?
Because that's putting it back on them.
Yeah, because it is them.
Yeah.
Because the problem is not with your child or with me, I'm a highly sensitive person. The problem is not with us. The problem is what about us? What about our sensitivity bothers you? Because the problem is with you. Mm-hmm. You're getting bothered by it. So you need to ask the question, what about this is bothering me? And that's then taking accountability for your own emotions and not projecting it on somebody else and not judging that person and not making that person feel ashamed or belittled or whatever it is that they're going to feel. Because I can tell you, you mentioned that Daniel might be feeling shame. Absolutely. We feel shame when somebody tells us you're too sensitive. When we cry and somebody says, oh, you're crying, or gives us a Kleenex so that would stop crying. Well, guess what? That's an emotion and it is okay to cry. Your body is releasing the sadness. That's why you cry. When you laugh, your body is releasing the happiness, the joy. When you cry, your body is releasing the sadness. Every emotion needs to be released from our body in order for us to feel regulated. When we can't release an emotion, we feel dysregulation. And when we feel dysregulation, our intelligence goes out the door. Our logical mind goes out the door, which you have talked about numerous times in this episode. So, I think I'm so proud of you for, I have said, to many people when I wasn't a coach or when I didn't have these podcasts, please read this book. And they didn't. So it's also, thanks to you that you took that step, because not everybody does, because it's not easy.
I think too, I think some people are afraid to read it because they are afraid to acknowledge that their child, and I'm going to say, particularly with boys, they are afraid that their boy is fragile,
yes,
or weak,
yes,
and it's none of those things.
Yeah, no.
But they are afraid that that's what might come of it, and then how do they deal with that?
Yes.
But if they have a male partner, how's that male partner going to deal with their son, being a sensitive child? And so many people in society believe that if you are male, then you need to be rough and tough and rigid, and don't talk about your feelings. Definitely don't cry.
Yeah.
And it's so sad for so many men. I mean, that they are not allowed to express those feelings.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you want your child, and I guess I'm talking specifically about boys right now, but you want your child to be able to have those feelings.
Yeah.
You also need to, they also need to grow up into a man's world. And so you do have to navigate that a little bit. We're in the process. I have a 10-year-old, so we're not there yet.
Yeah.
But how do you, where our journey right now is, how do we have both of those things be able to happen? That he be authentic and true to himself, while still being able to engage in with other boys or men that are less sensitive, more aggressive.
Yeah.
So it's a journey for sure.
And it all starts with acceptance and with having, you talked about tools in his toolbox. It's all about what you're doing right now is teaching him emotions are okay. All emotions are okay. All emotions are telling us, giving us a message. How do we process those messages? How do we sit with it and let our body process that information that it's giving us? And what we learn from that. And when you teach these things, when they become an adult, they already have all these tools that they can pull out of the toolbox whenever it's necessary. So yes, you set them up for success in life because you're giving them tools after tool after tool. And before you know it, their toolbox is so full and they have all these resources to pull from. So they themselves are going to manage this journey of how do you basically live in a environment where men need to show that they're strong and that they're resilient. And by the way, I truly believe that highly sensitive people are extremely strong people. That's why I don't like that book about dandelions and orchids, because it makes you feel that he's saying, maybe he's not, because I stopped reading that book right away. So I don't want to judge it, but the only judgment I have is from my few pages of reading it. It was basically portraying a highly sensitive person as being weak or as being fragile. Fragile was definitely something that I felt when I read that book, when I started reading that book, and I put it down. And I love books. I have read thousands and thousands of books up until now, and I never put a book down. When I start a book, first of all, because I do my research and I get the book that I love, it's very seldom that I start reading a book and I put it away. And that one I had to put away because I refuse to say that we are weak and we're fragile, because I have gone through hell and back all throughout my life with various situations. My dad having cancer, moving to the US on a whim. Like at night, my parents said, tomorrow we're going to the US. I don't speak English. I don't know anything about the US. We visited it once when I was younger, but I don't remember much about it. And what I do remember was not good, because when we went to visit the U.S., it was when the hostages were, were happening in Iran, and the American kids would throw rocks at me when I would go to the park, and it would hurt. I mean, they would pick up like rocks and throw at me. And I was a child. I was like 8 or 9 years old. I'm like, why are they throwing a rock at me? I didn't do anything. I'm not even talking to them. But it was all because their parents, whatever they were hearing on the TV, in their homes, they were against Iranians, for good reasons to be against the government. But why, poor 9-year-old me, I have nothing to do with the government. So in any event, that's why looking at myself and looking at my journey, and now engaging with other highly sensitive people and highly sensitive children as of 2019, when this all started for me, I've seen resilience and I've seen strength. I have not once encountered a highly sensitive child or a highly sensitive adult who is weak and fragile. Not a single person so far. And so that's why I didn't like that book. Yeah. We are not fragile.
I've actually never read the book. I just knew the phrase.
Yeah.
And maybe as a parent, it was just the way to think of your kid. But I agree with you. When I look at my son and what he has been through, and where what he has learned, I think of him as being very courageous, very smart. He's brave. He does things that are really difficult for him, but he takes his courage and he goes and does them.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. Like, yeah, fragility, that's perhaps something you asked earlier about misconceptions.
Yeah.
That is definitely something that people feel, but it's not true.
It's not true. Yeah. And I feel like every single one of my clients has said this to me, is like, I don't like it when people think I'm fragile. I am not fragile.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's a misconception that I really, truly want people to, that's why I keep repeating myself right now, is that I really want the listeners to know that this understanding or belief that highly sensitive people are fragile or weak or they can't cope with things, that is absolutely not true. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to remind you that you have the power to create a bright and successful future for your highly sensitive child. Embrace their uniqueness, nurture their strengths, and provide them with the love and support they need. Together, we can pave a path to success that aligns with their sensitivity. Thank you for joining us today, and remember, you're not alone on this journey. We'll be here with more insights and inspiration in our next episode. Until then, keep believing in your child's potential because they truly are extraordinary. Stay tuned, stay inspired, and stay committed to setting your child up for success in life. To book a private coaching session with me, please visit my website at parentinghsc.com.